Okay, hello friends. So today we have Praveen Kadam from Pune, and he's having close to 10 years of experience, and he's working as a Scrum Master from last 4 years. Today he's going to share interview questions. We are going to discuss about the interview questions. The recent interview which he gave on that's a company based in Dubai. So we don't want to disclose the name of the company, but yeah, it's a first round which he has, I think, going to be clear very soon. And once the second round will be done, then we will have one more interview with him with the name of the company. So thank
Sure,
you, Praveen, for giving your time. And why don't you tell us about yourself?
sure. So before I start, thank you, Sunan, for giving me this opportunity so that I can, explore my knowledge and I can share with this Scrum Master out there in the industry so they can, get something out of it. I hope that I would be producing some a good value from this session. Okay, so Sunan, my name is Praveen Kadam, and I am born and brought up in Pune itself. I have completed my master's degree in computer science in 2011. After that, I got the opportunity to work. I started my career as a PHP developer in one of the recruitment company where I used to develop the applicant tracking system. So I worked there for 2.5 years. After that, I moved to Zento Systems, where I'm currently working on. It is a product-based company. So I started it as a software engineer. Then gradually I moved to senior software engineer. And after that, from last 4 years, I'm working as a technical lead here. So my basic role here is to facilitate the meetings, Scrum events with the team. Then have to connect with the team to find out and fix their blockers and removing their impediments. Then I have to make sure that I would be contributing in setting up the agile culture in the organization. So maybe
Okay.
in some other teams and like that. Even I'm part of these organizations training module, and I would be giving this agile trainings to the new joinees that are getting joined in the organization.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, good, impressive. Okay, great. So let's start our Q&A session.
Sure.
So the very first one is based on the. So let's assume that you have your dev team, and they are working on some legacy software project, for example, mainframes or something like that. And
Mhm.
your team is set up recently, and the KD, like it's not that much appropriate, and they are not they don't know much about that old platform and all. So
Mhm.
for your sprints are finished and your velocity is low, and the result is not that much. So they have not created that much value proposition for the sprint. So what do
Right.
you do to help your team, to be sustained to achieve the success or to motivate them?
Sure. So Sunan, I definitely I can think of multiple solutions because when we are managing a team, then we won't guarantee that any particular. I mean, there is a one particular way to this will work in any of the situations. So we have to do this trial and error methods and just need to see which solution would fit for that particular situation. So talking about this solution, I think first of all, I see it's a lack of training provided to the team on old platform, since they have mentioned it's a legacy software. So definitely there are some old platforms that they are working on.
Hmm?
So when the team is joining, the setup of new team member is mentioned in the question. So I am suggesting, I am expecting that they should be provided some good trainings on this old platform as well as the new platform they are migrating to that. So once this training is provided, then definitely, if it is not provided, then it is a big impediment for Scrum team to deliver this business value, which I think. So being a Scrum Master, I'll definitely connect with architect team or maybe other appropriate authority who can provide these kind of trainings to the Scrum team, so that they can get some value out of this training and definitely put it into this development uh, area, and they can proceed. And definitely, I would like to see some good result out of that approach. Then a second solution maybe I can think of, here that team is lacking to adopt some major Scrum values. If you know that there is an old platform, new platform, and they are still struggling to understand this platform itself, then they have to be more open. They have to be more show some courage, right? Because these are the major Scrum values that we have. So if team do not have appropriate knowledge of old platform, then they should have a courage to put this in the sprint planning meeting or maybe in retrospective meeting, so that we can take some corrective actions on it. And at the first day itself, not first day, but at the starting of the project itself, right? So they have to be more vigilant from the day one when they are struggling with some kind of difficulties. So team should be more open, as I said, and they share these kind of impediments instead of giving some false commitments, I would say. So they have, so this is one kind of retrospective action item which we have to work upon. Okay, then another solution which I can think of, that ensure the ensure that regular backlog refinements meetings are getting conducted. Definitely I would be hosting these meetings and facilitating these meetings. So I have to just make sure the team is team understands this backlog refinement meeting very well. What do we do in it, and what are the outcome that we get out of this backlog refinement meeting? And we should do it regularly, like twice in a week or something like that, to define our strong definition of ready and something like that. So if we would have set the strong definition of ready at the time of starting this project, then probably would have the team would have worked on this, and maybe they could have given some good results in the sprint. So yeah, so these were my thoughts, and out of this solution, I would like to get some retrospective points as encourage team from my side, the retrospective that encourage the team to strongly adopt this Scrum values. So I'll have to work upon this thing. Then while working on such legacy software, and especially when setting up a new team, it should be ensured that appropriate training or KT sessions is provided and the team acknowledges on the same. So yeah, those were my thoughts.
Yeah, and maybe someone from Center of Excellence, or maybe some senior guide, someone who can guide them for the initial stages. Someone maybe senior, that can be also additional help. And once the team is a little bit matured enough, or need to basis, they can also hire some sort of consultant or something like that for a time being. And who can give them a specific
guidance
solution,
and the direction.
Yeah, that's good. That sounds great. Okay. So the next one is a very interesting one, and again, it's a situational kind of thing. So let's say your product owner is pretty busy, introducing the new features to their team, and for whatever the reason, your team has not fixed the bug fixes, and in the end, your tech debt is growing and growing and growing, and now after your team is already spent a lot of time in the project, that technical depth is slowing down your dev work, your development work, your testing and all. So how as a Scrum Master you will work with this kind of challenges, both in short term, in a long term perspective?
Okay. Yeah. So Sunand, me as a Scrum Master, I believe that everyone from a Scrum team is working in this agile methodology, including product owners, Scrum Master, development team. So I assume that product owner is also aware what is agile and how do we work and how agile works in our system, right? So I assume that product owner, being a member of Scrum team, he or she should understand the agile and Scrum very well. If there are some challenges in understanding these agile methodologies, then being a Scrum Master, I'll definitely play a role of agile coach and will facilitate the meeting with product owner and make sure that product owner understand the delivering a quality product, because quality is another important factor in agile. Not just the delivery or not just the productivity, but along with that, quality is one of the great factor in this agile method. So that has to be discussed with the product owner. So I will definitely facilitate the meeting and we'll connect with the product owner, and we'll see that we both are on the same page on this particular case. Then second thing I could think that being a Scrum Master, I should track the quality metrics regularly and should able to identify some technical depths at the early phase of the delivery. So if we're talking about this technical depths, definitely that should be found at a very early stage of the development. So yeah, like as I said, a few metrics, the metrics in Agile could help us here to finding out this technical depth at early stage. For example, if we talk about the quality, there are multiple quality metrics. So which I think of as of now, and which I regularly using in my day-to-day activity, which is escape defect or defect density matrix we can think about. Okay, so which gives you the number of defects when you are working on a sprint task. So before going that sprint feature to the production and the testing environment, how many defects that we have when it is in a testing phase. So how many defects, the number of defects that we get. So that measures this metric. Okay, so this metrics, if we regularly keep a track of this metric, then definitely we will have some good idea before at the start of the project itself. So this will help us to plan something accordingly, right? And talking about long term or short term, I really don't think there is a term called short term or mid term. So we are learning. So we learn its dynamic environment, right? So mid term or anything, I don't think we can predict these kind of terms at any point of time. So that was my thought on it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, good. Okay, and what do you think about the situation when any of your team member comes to you and then he or she is going to tell you that I'm not going to participate in retros because for me it's a waste of time. So how you will motivate your team members, or you will ensure that whatever the ceremonies or the events as a scrum master you are doing make sense, or they will understand the benefit of those events? How you are going to do that?
Right. Yeah. So first of all, Sunan, I mean, the role of Scrum Master is not that. I mean, it looks like a simple, but it's definitely hard to implement, because sometimes you have to play a role of a trainer, sometimes you have to play a role of a coach, agile coach, sometimes you have to play a role of servant leader. Basically, Scrum Master is the servant leader that we say. So at this point of time, in these situations, I would say I will play a role of coach here, because maybe a team is struggling, they are not trying to understand the theories that are there behind this agile concept. Okay, so I will make sure that team understands this theory of scrum events, retrospective reviews, planning, daily scrums, and it's a great advantage which has produced a very good results in the continuous development process, right? So in agile, so knowing that and finding out and just explaining them the theory of this retrospective and advantages of it, or maybe I could give some real life examples that has given us some good results while following all these processes, then that can help them to make it to make them understand. So definitely I'll not. Sure.
Can you share any examples?
Example like
just now you mentioned, right, the real life examples from the past, so they can understand. Yeah, I mean, if you can recall.
Sure. So I would like to recall one example is so we have one project earlier, okay, and that was a small project of migration. So we have to move a file from one server to another server, and we had a very not a tight deadline, but we had timeline that project around 2 or 3 months. Okay, and definitely we wanted to know some the knowledge on this migration process, specifically my team, because they had never worked on the migration project as such. So definitely some kind of training, some kind of discussions, and we work on this very tightly coupled system where the models are very independent, models are very dependent. So if we implement something in one model, so that is definitely going to affect the other model. So when working in this tightly coupled system, I mean, it becomes some point of time, it becomes that you have to coordinate with the other team members regularly, to understand what is going there, what is the process there, how they store the file there, and where are the actual files stored. So multiple, many communication is needed between the team. Okay, so so we were working on that project, and we had a timeline of 3 months, and I Scrum, and we as a team, we found out at the first time itself and the initial level of this project that we are going to need these regular interactions with the other team members, and without that it will not that easy to hand over this project. Okay, and apart from this regular interaction, also working on this project, also maybe we need to do some retrospective more strongly to understand what we have missed in the earlier print, and what we can achieve to progress it very well ahead, because this is something, a migration that we are working on a first time. So few things we might lose here, right? So we have to work upon. So in this project, a retrospective part was very crucial, and without a retrospective, I don't think we would have given some good quality or a progress, or we would have achieved a deadline. So that was one of the good example that without a retrospective, with following this retrospective continuously, it helped us to understand the process very well, understand the risk factors and the uncertainties before at early stage, and we could deliver it on time. So that was one of the examples.
Okay, great, good. And the next one is again based on the current situation, which everyone is stuck. So with this difficult time of COVID and all, how as a Scrum Master you keep your team engaged, and especially during the retros when most of the people are on the video calls, on Zoom calls and all. So people are offshore, on site, lot of challenges. So how you will do that?
Sure. Yeah. So you said it's a video call. So definitely, I think video call is itself a good way of keeping the team engaged. Okay, that is what I think. Because when you are on the video call, definitely you have to be there in front of camera, and you have to show that you are there in the call, and you are just listening, and you are just reacting, and you are active basically in the call. So video call is itself a good way of keeping the team engaged. Apart from that, I have really faced this situation. I was facing these situations last year when we started this work from home, and then I could apply some other strategies, like I'll create a two-way communication when we are in the video call. Then I'll create a two-way communication, so that team will have to, maybe they'll have to answer the questions which I would be asking, or maybe they can share their own questions, and maybe I or maybe someone else could answer it. So by having this two-way communication, definitely help the team to keep them engaged. So asking questions on regular intervals, or maybe some point of time, we can give them a chance to share their own thoughts, or on thoughts on a particular situation. So in that case, they have to be more active, and they have to share their thoughts. Also, I'll use a probing question method here. A probing question is nothing like asking them open-ended questions, or questions which which will keep them engaged, which we can ask them certainly, and then they'll have to answer on it. And so basically, they have to be more attentive while facing these probing questions. So these kind of questions, answers, two-way communications can keep them engaged. Also, sometimes I give them a chance to facilitate the meeting from their end. I would be there in the meeting, but my role will be more passive than active. I'll just see what is going on and let them give a chance to facilitate the meeting, and just see how they facilitate the meeting, right? So by following these kind of activities, I would say we can keep them engaged, definitely.
Okay, good. Okay, the next one is regarding, let's say your team is working in a sprint, and suddenly in between your product owner came, and he just pushing some sort of urgent requirements and some additional work during the sprint. So what is your thought on that?
Okay. Yeah. Again, we have faced these situations, and these are expected. So we call it as a scope creep. Scope creep is nothing but an additional requirement or something which is coming in your way, which you have not committed, or which we have not, which is out of your maybe a commitment areas, and this is coming in the middle of the development, and which is very urgent. So definitely we identify, we address this as a scope creep, and there are many ways to handle these kind of scope creep. And so here in this case, we can think definitely it working in agile process. So it's a scrum team who is working together and producing a value. Okay. So this has to be decided by development team, that these are some additional requirements that are coming from a product owner or a client. So how to deal with those? So scrum team will decide that whether we are going to deliver this or not, based on our velocity, or based on the capacity. So they have to take a decision on it, whether they are going to work on it, they're able to commit it or not. Okay, if not, if yes, then definitely we will take that as an additional requirement into the sprint, and we'll work on it by maybe stretching the working hours. The development team can stretch their working hours, and just if they agree on this particular situation. If not, it is not possible, then definitely we can just think if we can get some other team members, okay, to help us here in these situations, and dealing with this co-creep, right? So this way we can also think of, again, we can see whether there is a scope to push back few of the items in the sprint to the product backlog, and take the additional requirement that client has suggested. If we have that scope, then we can think of that. Again, we can think of time. For example, the additional requirement that client has suggested, if we have a time to plan those very well in the next sprint, and then maybe in the next sprint we can start, then it will not affect our current sprint, and we can plan those in the next sprint and just start it, and immediately in the next sprint maybe we can deliver. So product owner can prioritize those things accordingly, and we will deliver that. So that way we can also think of, and if that is also not possible sometime, then we have to the scrum team will identify the risk of doing this additional requirement in the current sprint. If it is something urgent, immediate, and that has to be delivered along with your sprint task, then definitely there will be some risk that has to be identified, addressed by scrum team, and that has to communicated with the product owner. Then definitely product owner will put this together, all these facts, all these solutions that we've discussed, and this will be conveyed to the business owner, how with which approach that he wants to go proceed, and based on that we can go ahead. So this was a kind of approach at that point of time. But if you have to sustain in a long duration, then definitely you have to be take some long approach there. I mean, like, you have to be more vigilant from a day one when you are working in this environment. So to find out the risk, find out this scope creep, you have to be vigilant from the day one, and we have to understand the client's vision, client requirements very well. So maybe that can help us to reduce the scope creep ahead. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good. Okay, so can you just give us any example of how Agile helps you to detect risk early in the project?
Okay, fine. Sure. So one of the incident that I remember is see, I work in a team which is called as a reporting team. So, and there are some other teams as well, like product team. So when I say a product team, so they are working on a particular module. Let us take an example of invoice module. Okay. So in invoice module, there is a dashboard where the invoices can be added. From there, invoices can be approved, invoices can be paid, and there are multiple factors in it. Who approves the invoices? There are multiple levels of user access. Who approves it? Who can pay it? Who can post it, or something like that? So there is this we will call it as the product team, which deals with this adding, editing, and inserting this invoices into the system. And now, me being a Scrum Master, I am working with the reporting team who is building a report on this particular invoices data. Okay, now these two teams are interconnected. Okay, those are closely connected. So if a product team is doing some kind of changes, okay, and the reports team have already built a report based on the existing version of that module or a product team, and if product team is doing again some changes in that their module, then that has to be communicated with the reports team so that they can be on the same page and they can modify or refactor their reports at the same time. So this has happened that product team was doing some changes and they were expecting us to do the refactoring at the same time. Okay, but this for me, this found it as a a risk factor, because if a product team is doing a changes and they're expecting us to simultaneously work on report refactoring, okay, then while testing the report or while doing a verification of those refactoring, the QA team have to add a new data. Okay, and to add a new data, they have to go and visit the product modules and product screens where they can add that data. But as we say, this is a parallel development, so they are also working on these new screens. So it is a blocker for a QA team to add a new data and verify the report. Maybe they can verify the report for existing data, okay, but a new data they cannot go ahead verifying this report, because adding a new data, that functionality is still under progress. So if we go ahead with this parallel development as well as the refactoring, then definitely it will create a bottleneck situation at the end of the delivery of this project, because none of the things will be completed. So to go ahead with this approach, a product team have to finish their development first, and once it is completed, tested from their side, then the report team can start refactoring and testing the reports from their end, and it will create some good value out of it. So there won't be any risk going ahead with this approach. So I suggested this as a risk, and definitely we had been given 1 more month time, and where then product team finished their product development, and then we start on it and we handled this project very well. So that was the risk that I found in this particular situation.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your experience, Praveen. Okay. So the next one is again an important one, and I would say I myself have seen this in many places in different interviews. So can you just give any of your real life example where you brought this transparency, the core value of a Scrum, into a team?
Okay. Okay. So yeah, as I said, as I mentioned, Sunan, that I'm working in this tightly coupled system where modules are independent. Okay, so I faced these situations when I started my career as a Scrum Master, and I was in my initial days. So I was knowing few of the things. I was not knowing another things. So one of the things that when product team is doing some changes, okay, then that has to be informed. That has to be informed to the other dependent team, right? So that was not done at some point of time by the product team, and they missed to inform the other dependent team, and they just did a modification in their product, and ultimately when that went on live, the other dependent model got break on the live. So they started getting a complaints from a client, this model is not working or something like this. So here I found that so what transparency I brought into this situation is I discuss with stakeholders of two different teams, the development managers and their scrum master, and I facilitated a common call where I suggested one point, that whenever a product team is doing some changes and that is going to affect some other changes, maybe product team is not aware that it will affect, but still on the safer side, a product team can create a verification task for other team and just assign to them. Now let the other team decide whether this is going to impact our module or not. If it is going to impact, then definitely they will prepare on it. They'll do a refactoring their side, and parallelly, I mean, they can manage it on their own. But creating this task or creating this ticket will identify all of the stakeholders that are involved in this project, and definitely that will be taken care. So in this way, I brought this transparency, that by creating these tickets, everyone will be on the same page and everyone will know what's going on with this product. So that's it.
Okay, good. Okay, so this one is pretty interesting. So could you tell us about matrices which you are using in your project, but other than the velocity or burn down? Even I would not say velocity is a matrix, but yeah. So can you just tell us more about that?
Yeah. So there are different maybe categories under which we can consolidate these metrics. So for example, if you talk about a sprint metric, then there are sprint burn down. And as you said, a velocity may not be a matrix, but it is something we can measure based on the velocity, something in the sprint burn down or taking few decisions. So these are kind of sprint metrics. Apart from that, as I mentioned, quality is an important factor while working on this agile and going ahead. So few quality metrics that I can think of. The one which I have already mentioned in earlier question is the defect density matrix. Okay. Apart from that, I would like to mention one more matrix is the failed deployment matrix, which we are using it continuously. That is, so when you are building a product or when you are working in a sprint and you are delivering a feature, okay, and when that feature is going on the testing environment, okay, and you have created a build ready, and now that build is going on a production. So when it goes on the production, so by knowing, so this matrix will help you, access the number of deployments to testing and production environments. So failed deployments, or being more specific on these failed deployments. So these failed deployments can shed light on, how reliable those environments are, and whether a team is building working software at all or not, right? So concurrently, you can use the failed deployment matrix to understand whether a given sprint or a release is actually ready to go on a production or not, right? So this way we can achieve a quality at early stage by knowing this factor and by knowing this this specific metric. So failed deployment, as I said, defect density. Again, we have one metric called as MTTR. Now it's more about a mean time to resolve. Okay. So mean time to resolve a bug or a feature. So we are working in these agile projects, and there are chances like we discussed about scope creep. So for example, there is a bug in a system and the client has said that it is very important and it's very immediate bug, right? And that has to be fixed in a 24 hours. Okay. So what we do in our system is we differentiate these bugs based on their priority, or maybe based on their timeline within which we have to complete it. So there are immediate bugs which has to be fixed in the 24 hours. Then there are urgent bugs that have to be fixed in 48 hours. Okay. So we have a matrix that once a sprint is done, okay, then how many urgent bugs we fixed in this particular matrix, how many immediate bugs that we fixed. Okay. So that gives us some information that the number of urgent or immediate bugs that are coming in your after your development. So that could help us to make a note of doing a retrospective, and we can work on it to keep this matrix as low as possible, or maybe not creating a bug at all. So these decisions can be taken based on this matrix. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Praveen. Yeah, I think we are done with the Q&A session. And I again want to thank you for sharing all your experiences, all your questions and answers with the larger audience over here. And I'm sure that they will definitely going to benefit with your experience. So thanks one more time, Praveen.
Thank you very much, Anand. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, welcome.